October 1st, 2013, federal agents entered a public library in San Francisco. They arrested 29-year-old Ross Ulbricht. Ulbricht ran the largest, most sophisticated online market for illegal drugs in history. He named it Silk Road,
See, I know
a reference to the
this.
ancient trade routes that connected China to Europe, beginning in the 2nd century BC. Ulbricht hoped to create his own modern-day marketplace, except his would sell hardcore drugs and other illegal goods. Over the 2 years and 10 months that Silk Road operated, federal prosecutors say it processed nearly $214 million in sales using Bitcoin. The site operated on a hidden part of the internet called the dark web. Prosecutors...
Okay, chat. Because I hate that I know this much about this, okay? But, listen, I don't want to glaze, and I'm not somebody who backs up crime, but, at the time, it was very review-based, and people...
Review-based?
Were harshly criticized based on how good the products were, right? So if they trolled, and if shit was laced, or fucked, or cooked, they would get cooked, right? Which means that people were getting exactly what they paid for. Which, you know,
Say a journal the FBI found on Ulbricht's computer stated he wanted to create a website where people could buy any...
These days, people die because of fucking unwanted overdose and shit like that, on like fentanyl and shit like that. Right?
That is very fucking true.
If you're gonna get...
That is very fucking true. This is a very good point by X. Like, at least they knew that what they were getting was, like, actually good fucking drugs. It's not gonna fucking kill you, bruh. And by good drugs, I don't mean, like, drugs that are good. I mean, like, drugs that aren't going to kill you. You know what I'm saying?
A product that's illegal. Dude, if you at least pure, you wanna know you're getting at least. Come on, man.
Anonymously, with no trail whatsoever that could lead back to them.
Unfortunately for Ulbricht, he did leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs that ultimately took him down and his empire with it.
Ulbricht was born on March 17, 1984, in Austin, Texas. He was a Boy Scout, attaining the highest rank of Eagle Scout, just like his dad had done.
Damn.
He had a happy childhood, growing up an
Eagle
easygoing
Scout.
hipster but serious student who scored 1,460 on his SATs within the 96th percentile and got a full ride to the University of Texas at Austin, where he studied physics. He then won another full scholarship for a master's at Penn State in material science and engineering. It was at Penn that he evolved into a hardcore libertarian, a political philosophy that advocates individualism and minimal state involvement in people's lives. He was a fan and follower of libertarian economist Ludwig von Mises, who opposed government interference in the economy. When then presidential candidate Mitt Romney asked, "What is America's greatest challenge?" Ulbricht responded like this on his YouTube channel.
You know, but I think the most important thing is getting us out of the United Nations.
Ulbricht wanted to create a world free from institutional or government control. That mindset led him to create Silk Road in January 2011.
Right above.
You couldn't type in a normal web address to get to Silk Road or use a normal web browser. You needed software called Tor that works as a web browser. Tor was developed by the U.S. Navy as a way of communicating privately over the internet. It conceals the real IP address of computers on the network to hide the identity of the user, and it can't be traced by the government. Silk Road's address used a bunch of random numbers and letters that ended with .onion. Ulbricht made the site by teaching himself how to code. When he needed more help, he reached out on a Bitcoin community forum, writing, "I'm looking for the best and brightest IT pro in the Bitcoin community to be the lead developer in a venture-backed Bitcoin startup company." Anyone interested was to contact him via his email, rossulbricht@gmail.com. Making his email public would later come back to haunt him.
Oh, no.
He also got coding help from a buddy of his from undergrad, Richard Bates. Ulbricht had no choice but to eventually tell his friend what he was up to. He also told his girlfriend, Julia V. One day, he showed her the psychedelic mushrooms he was growing and selling as a starter product on his new website. Silk Road would eventually be a marketplace for all kinds of drugs. Weed, cocaine, LSD, ecstasy, heroin. This fit Ulbricht's libertarian mindset. He believed that whatever someone decided to put in their body was their choice and no one else's, least of all the government's. Ulbricht also believed everyone had the right to self-defense when guns started appearing on Silk Road. However, he realized he didn't need the controversy and soon took weapons off the site.
Yeah.
After getting his business up and running, he turned his attention to attracting customers. He decided to write a post on a magic mushrooms forum called the Shroomery, pretending to be someone who happened to come across Silk Road. He used the username Altoid, posting, I'm thinking of buying off it, but wanted to see if anyone here had heard of it and could recommend it. He included a link with instructions on how to access Silk Road. He did the same on a Bitcoin community forum about buying and selling heroin, describing Silk Road as an anonymous Amazon.com. It wasn't long before buyers showed up. To limit scams, there was a rating system for sellers similar to Amazon reviews. If a seller sold bad drugs and got a poor rating, it would hurt their sales. The drugs arrived by mail with fake return addresses. They'd be slipped inside CD and DVD cases. Some sellers got even more creative and put them in little ripples of cardboard. The packages had printed mailing labels rather than handwritten ones to look like they came from a legitimate business. Ironically, that backfired. The printed labels actually attracted the suspicion of authorities. In the summer of 2011, Department of Homeland Security agent Jared Duryagian learned of a small meat package with the printed...
I would have expected that printing it would only help. That's crazy that actually backfired.
Address going through Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. It contained a single pink pill of ecstasy, which was also suspicious because usually they shipped in bulk. Soon, 2 or 3 packages began arriving, then 50, then up to 1,000 a day. Many came from the Netherlands, which is a notorious source of drugs. Agent Duryagian visited an address where one of the packages was to be delivered, chatted with the roommate of the buyer, who said the drugs came from a site called Silk Road. Duryagian had never heard of Silk Road before. He did some digging online and came across an article written by Gawker journalist Adrian Chen in June 2011. Chen wrote, "Making small talk with your pot dealer sucks. Buying cocaine can get you shot. What if you could buy and sell drugs online, like books or light bulbs? Now you can. Welcome to Silk Road." The article attracted 3 million views and put Silk Road on the map. Not only did Silk Road soon attract the attention of thousands of drug dealers and buyers, but also politicians, like Senator Chuck Schumer, who called for the site to be shut down. The US government was concerned, but not only about drug sales. As Nick Bilton detailed in his book, American Kingpin, Homeland Security agent Duryagian feared that a terrorist organization could enter the country and then buy something from Silk Road to harm Americans. He convinced the US Attorney's Office in Chicago to take on the case. As Silk Road came into the spotlight, Ulbricht's college friend Richard, who helped him with programming,
rookie mistake, he should have just told them that they can't get the tax on it. Boom, they would have fucking went straight for it.
said he urged him to shut it down. Ulbricht and his girlfriend Julia broke up soon after the launch of Silk Road. She said one of the reasons was because of the insane pressure she felt to keep his secret.
I missed it.
Ulbricht lied to her and Richard, telling them he had sold the business to someone else and no longer had anything to do with it. He moved to Australia for a while and lived with his sister in Sydney. Around this time, he was contacted through the site by a person going by the name Variety Jones. Variety Jones became his right-hand man and someone Ulbricht described as a real mentor. Neither knew the other's true identity. Variety Jones pointed out the gaping holes in security on Silk Road. Ulbricht decided to encrypt all the files on his computer. This is the actual laptop he used to run Silk Road. He put in a kill switch that would automatically shut down his device by pressing a predetermined key in case authorities rushed in at the last minute.
That wouldn't do anything.
He also prepared an escape plan if needed, including destroy laptop, hard drive, find a place to live on Craigslist for cash with a new identity. Variety Jones came up...
It's so funny that he wrote that down. Like, bruh, what are you doing writing it down? Or
with Ulbricht's infamous segment on Silk Road, Dread Pirate Roberts. A reference to the...
Does it wipe the disk like that? Does it wipe the disk? Otherwise, they can do forensic reversal bullshit. Oh, encrypted the files, then it can be... Okay, yeah, makes sense. My bad. I didn't put encrypted and then shutting down. My bad.
Fearsome captains from the film The Princess Bride, who passed the name on to a chosen successor. In the same way, Ulbricht hoped to one day pass on the name Dread Pirate Roberts to someone who might succeed him. Variety Jones got him to see how big Silk Road could grow to be. Ulbricht wrote in a personal journal disclosed by prosecutors, "Silk Road is going to become a phenomenon, and at least one person will tell me about it, unknowing that I was its creator." In 2 short years, Silk Road grew to more than 100,000 users, with sales of nearly 214 million, including 13.2 million in commissions.
This is insane!
For Silk Road, according to prosecutors. The feds were left scratching their heads as they still had no clue who was the mastermind behind Silk Road. Who was this Dread Pirate Roberts? Who was the captain of the ship? He became somewhat of a competition amongst the various government agencies to be the one to identify Dread Pirate Roberts. To better understand how Silk Road operated, Department of Homeland Security agent Duryegian posed as a buyer and made 52 undercover purchases. He also seized thousands of packages, linked certain sales back to their source, and arrested several people. His biggest get came when he tracked down a Dread Pirate Roberts employee, a moderator on Silk Road's user forums, going by the name Cirrus. He forced her to hand over her account, and then he pretended to be her. Duryegian, posing as Cirrus, got assignments directly from Dread Pirate Roberts. He wasn't the only federal agent chatting with the Silk Road boss.
Dude,
DEA agent Carl Force was part of a task force in Baltimore that was also investigating. Force used the username Knob and posed as a drug dealer, originally from the Dominican Republic, who smuggled millions of dollars worth of cocaine and heroin into the U.S.
So they're just creating a random backstory, right? That's essentially what they're doing. They're just creating a random. It's like, yeah, it's this guy from here, and yeah, he smuggled millions of dollars
every year. He was on friendly terms with Dread Pirate Roberts, who had no idea he was speaking with a DEA agent, an agent who, in a twist in the tale, turned out to be corrupt. Force convinced Dread Pirate Roberts to pay him $50,000 in Bitcoin by claiming he had insider information from a government employee.
Dude.
When Force reported the conversation to the DEA, he claimed he never received any payment, when in fact, he funneled the Bitcoin into a personal account.
Yo,
and believe it or not, a second agent who worked on the same Baltimore task force was also stealing. Secret Service agent Sean Bridges.
Dude,
when Silk Road
how does that happen?
Customer support rep Curtis Clark Green was arrested at his home with a
motherfuckers?
kilo of coke. Bridges used Green's admin access to steal 20,000 Bitcoin from other user accounts. Dread Pirate Roberts thought Green to be responsible for the theft. He wanted to rough him up and got egged on by his mentor, Variety Jones. Dread Pirate Roberts knew Green's real identity because as a condition for being on Silk Road's payroll, staff had to hand over their government ID. Dread Pirate Roberts turned to Knob, aka DEA agent Carl Force, to beat up Green. Knob agreed. However, Dread Pirate Roberts then changed his mind and messaged, "Can you change the order to execute rather than torture?" Dread Pirate Roberts said he had, quote, never killed a man or had one killed before, but it is the right move in this case. He didn't want to risk Green giving up information to the authorities, as he knew he had been arrested when he searched him up online. Knob agreed to do the job for $80,000 in Bitcoin. Ulbricht later received photos of a dead Green, except he wasn't really dead. Agent Force staged Green's death, complete with photos of him on the floor, covered in Campbell's Chicken and Stars soup. The Dread Pirate Roberts is said to have ordered hits on 5 others whom he felt threatened by. Silk Road had been prey for blackmailers and extortionists. However, there was no proof that anyone was ever killed. Ulbricht was never charged with murder for hire. The government agencies were still nowhere closer to figuring out who was Dread Pirate Roberts. The DEA enlisted the help of the FBI cybercrime team in New York, as it had more technological know-how, including experience with the dark web. FBI agent...
Why would you keep saying this is propaganda? Propaganda about what? I don't know what this could even be propaganda about. Like what?
And Chris Tarbell knew that in order to catch Dread Pirate Roberts, they had to wait for them to make a mistake. And according to the FBI, the Dread Pirate Roberts did finally slip up about a year after the agency started investigating. In May 2013, investigators noticed coding errors, vulnerabilities on the Silk Road website that leaked IP addresses. As a result, they discovered the Silk Road servers were housed in a data center in Iceland. By the way, Ulbricht's defense team doesn't buy this explanation. They believe the NSA spied illegally and tipped off the FBI to the server's location. Agent Tarbell flew to Reykjavik, where Icelandic authorities gave him a drive with information from the servers. The FBI accessed a treasure trove of data. They could see the number of transactions processed, who logged in and out, and crucially, Tarbell...
Chat, in a world where
got him, right?
Some experts got together, right, in court, and they were to prove that the government spied and used illegal tactics to get him, right? Would there be any backlash or sort of social, like, riots? I don't think anybody would give a fuck. I don't think anybody would do shit at all.
Tarbell and his team had identified that the master computer Silk Road servers talked to, the one Dread Pirate Roberts used to log into Silk Road, was named Frosty. And Dread Pirate Roberts was logging in with an encryption key that ended with Frosty@Frosty. They could also tell Dread Pirate Roberts recently used internet from a San Francisco cafe to log into a Silk Road server via a VPN. By the spring of 2012,
Oh,
Ulbricht
shit,
had
they
returned
got
home
him.
from Australia and eventually moved to San Francisco to live with a childhood friend. So now, the FBI had the name of the computer and could focus their search on San Francisco. But still, no idea of Dread Pirate Roberts' real identity. That piece of the puzzle would be
Okay, they
filled in
don't
by
got him.
Gary Alford, who worked for the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. As a tax investigator,
course.
he was assigned to follow the money, but instead discovered the identity of Dread Pirate Roberts.
A
Alford
fucking
figured that whoever
IRS,
started
man.
Silk Road would have had to drum up interest in it long before that Gawker article came out. So he decided to do Google searches for Silk Road prior to June 2011.
Dude, what?
That's when he stumbled on Ulbricht's online posts,
Are you fucking kidding me? They didn't do that, bro?
where he pretended to be someone who happened to come across Silk Road. Alford noted the username for the posts, Altoid. He also noticed another post where Altoid asked for IT help on the Bitcoin forum that also included his personal email, rossulbricht@gmail.com.
Oh,
This
and
guy.
all they do is go back and subpoena the fucking records of these websites.
Someone with a username Altoid also posted on Stack Overflow with a question related to Tor. Soon after, that user changed the alias from Altoid to Frosty. Alfred didn't know the significance of the name
shit.
Frosty at the time, but what he did have was
Got
a
him.
real name to track down. He Googled Ross Ulbricht and came across the LinkedIn profile of a young man with rather cryptic life goals. Quote, "The most widespread and systemic use of force is amongst institutions and governments. So this is my current point of effort." Alfred asked
because
himself,
of a fucking
could Ross
username.
Ulbricht be the brains behind
Got
Silk
his
Road?
ass.
Then came another piece of the puzzle. In July 2013, U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers intercepted 9 fake IDs coming into the U.S. from
Dude!
Canada. Homeland Security agents decided to pay a visit to the intended recipient. They showed up at 2260 15th Avenue in San Francisco, the address where Ulbricht had been staying. He had moved out of the place he shared with his friend and into a sublet he found on Craigslist, where he paid his rent in cash. He took every precaution, including adopting a fake identity. His roommates knew him as Joshua Terry, though he kept much of his backstory the same. He said he was from Texas, worked in IT, which is why he was always on his computer, and had recently returned home from Australia, which made not having a cell phone less suspicious. Joshua kept to himself and ate steak dinners for one. When the agents questioned
Damn.
Ulbricht, they observed that he
Dude,
became
this is it.
visibly
Usually people make mistakes like all that like income and money and
That's
like,
wild,
This guy
dude.
kind of played his cards right.
nervous.
And he
He
still
didn't
got
admit to
got.
purchasing the fake IDs, let alone that he bought them so he could rent additional servers to deal with Silk Road's growth, as well as security issues. Prosecutors later claimed he prepared for a life on the run, including seeking citizenship on the island of Dominica. Ulbricht volunteered to the agents who showed up at his door that, hypothetically, anyone could purchase anything they wanted on a site called Silk Road. The agents had never heard of Silk Road and were apparently unaware of any federal investigations, but they did document the incident. So when IRS agent Gary Alford ran another search on Ulbricht, he found that Homeland Security file on the fake IDs, which
Wait.
cemented
Drop my
his
phone
belief
in the mouth.
that they had the right guy. The pieces of the puzzle finally
Dude,
came
that's
together
so
when Alfred
wild,
got on the
man.
phone with the other agencies to see what they all had. Alfred mentioned the username Frosty that he had found on a forum. That floored FBI agent Tarbell, who knew Frosty to be the name of the computer Dread Pirate Roberts used. Bingo. They knew Ross Ulbricht was
Jesus.
Dread Pirate Roberts. In their pursuit of evidence, federal agents followed him everywhere. They also had a subpoena from Gmail and noticed that whenever Dread Pirate Roberts logged into Silk Road, Ulbricht was also signed into his Google account. And whenever Dread Pirate Roberts logged out, Ulbricht also logged out of his Google account. But they knew this wouldn't be enough to nail him. They needed concrete evidence.
Way more.
They had to
Concrete?
catch Ulbricht while
Concrete, concrete, really?
this wouldn't be enough to nail
It's not like tomato. There's one way to say it. I'm sorry.
They needed concrete evidence.
Way more.
They had to catch
Concrete.
Ulbricht while his laptop was open and he was logged in on Silk Road as Dread Pirate Roberts. An unlocked computer was also necessary so agents could access his files. This would be difficult to pull off. Authorities knew their best bet was to catch him off guard
falls
and
asleep,
arrest
huh?
him in a public place.
Ah.
Homeland Security agent Jared Duryegian was still pretending to be Silk Road staff member Cirrus and continued to maintain contact with Dread Pirate Roberts. This communication was crucial to the plan they hatched. On October 1st, 2013, at 3:08 p.m. local time, Duryegian saw Dread Pirate Roberts log on. Ulbricht was sitting in the science fiction section of the San Francisco Public Library's Glen Park branch. Duryegian started up a conversation with Dread Pirate Roberts while posing as Cirrus. Hi, are you there? Hey, how are you doing? I'm okay. You? Good. Can you check out one of the flagged messages for me? The flagged messages were in the main administrative section that only Dread Pirate Roberts could access. Dread Pirate Roberts responded, Sure, let me log in. Okay.
Oh,
You did Bitcoin exchange before you started working for me, right? Dread Pirate Roberts asked this for security reasons, because only the real Cirrus would know the answer. Luckily for authorities, the real Cirrus had told them how to answer the security question. Agent Duryegian hoped he recalled correctly when he typed, yes, but just for a little bit. It was a nerve-wracking moment. Not any more than that? No. I stopped because of reporting requirements. Damn regulators, eh?
Is that the
Which
password
post?
then?
Duryegian knew Ulbricht was now looking at an
What's up, D?
What the fuck is the word?
I'm just chilling, bro.
admin screen. He gave the signal to the other agents positioned in the library to make a move. A commotion soon broke out near Ulbricht. A woman yelled, "F you," as the man next to her appeared like he was about to punch her. When
What?
Ulbricht turned around to see the fight, an agent swooped in and grabbed his open laptop.
Oh,
At that point,
got him,
Ulbricht,
dude.
quote, lunges towards the laptop, and another agent walks behind him, bear hugs him. Ulbricht was
Jesus.
arrested and taken away. The man and woman who were arguing
Got
were in
his
fact
ass.
undercover agents
Yeah,
who created
I
a
thought
distraction.
they were gonna be undercover agents. Let's see.
What is it?
The fucking takedown of Silk Road, bro. I know you know all about it. I know you know all about it.
Online Silk Road?
Yeah, the drug. Yeah.
Distraction.
Yeah, right.
Ulbricht's family and friends were shocked. How could the kind, fun, loving man they knew
Right.
be the same person who ran a global drug bazaar? They couldn't believe it. Ulbricht was indicted on 7 charges, including distributing narcotics by means of the internet and engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise.
Damn,
He
they
pleaded
got
not
his
guilty
ass.
to
Not
all charges.
guilty.
Sometimes these things
The
are.
trial
They got
began
him,
on
right?
It's kind of odd. Some of these things I feel like they're kind of like they're an idea. They're like a concept. They're. It's not something that it only is one thing. It's a method. If it's not one thing, it'll be somebody else. What? I'm just saying it. It's a bit like
I don't
like Pirate
even
Bay,
know what X
right?
is trying to say.
Like
right
you cannot really destroy the you know, it's always going to exist
Dude.
somehow, right?
to all charges. The trial began on
don't
January
know what he's
13,
trying to say.
2015, and lasted 3 weeks. Many of Ulbricht's
Right.
supporters showed up, believing a guilty verdict would be a miscarriage of justice. Ulbricht's defense attorney argued he wasn't Dread Pirate Roberts, that he had given away the handle in Silk Road to someone else, but the jury didn't buy it. On February 5th, 2015, a federal jury found Ross Ulbricht guilty on all 7 counts. Before sentencing, Ulbricht wrote a letter to the judge, begging for a more lenient sentence. "I've had my youth, and I know you must take away my middle years, but please leave me my old age. Please leave a small light at the end of the tunnel, an excuse to stay healthy, an excuse to dream of better days ahead, and a chance to redeem myself in the free world before I meet my maker."
Damn.
On May 29, 2015, U.S. District Judge Catherine B. Forrest delivered her sentence. "You were the captain of the ship as the Dread Pirate Roberts, and you made your own laws, and you enforced those laws in the manner that you saw fit. So it wasn't a world without restriction. It wasn't a world of ultimate freedom. It was a world of laws that you created. They were your laws. It is fictional to think of Silk Road as some place of freedom. No drug dealer from the Bronx selling meth or heroin or crack has ever made these kinds of arguments to the court. It is a privileged argument. It is an argument from one of privilege. You are no better a person than any other drug dealer, and your education does not give you a special place of privilege in our criminal justice system. It makes it less explicable why you did what you did. There is no reason to make a choice between these two people that I
Jesus,
see that are
Chad.
on display. The Ulbricht who is the leader of the criminal enterprise, and the Ulbricht who is known and loved. What is clear is that people are very, very complex, and you are one of them. They are made up of many different qualities and many characteristics, with no one quality defining them. And there is good in you, Mr. Ulbricht, I have no doubt, but there is also bad. and what you did in connection with Silk Road was terribly destructive to our social fabric. Mr. Ulbricht, it is my judgment, delivered here, now, on behalf of our country, that on counts 2 and 4, you were sentenced to a period of life imprisonment to run concurrently. On count 5, you were sentenced to 5 years imprisonment to run concurrently. On count 6, you were sentenced to 15 years imprisonment, also concurrent. And for money laundering in count 7, you were sentenced to 20 years, also concurrent.
Well,
in the federal system, there was no parole,
That's life.
and you shall serve your life in prison.
Jesus.
This was far beyond what the prosecution had even asked for.
Ulbricht had hoped Silk Road would become such a success that he would be famous. According to a journal entry read by the prosecutor to the jury, Ulbricht wrote, "I imagine that someday I may have a story written about my life, and it would be good to have a detailed account of it. His dream came true, but perhaps not in the way he had imagined." The FBI later identified Ulbricht's mentor, Variety Jones, as Roger Thomas Clark, a Canadian arrested in Thailand in 2015. In 2020, Clark pled guilty in a Manhattan court to conspiring to distribute massive quantities of narcotics. As for the 2 corrupt officers investigating Silk Road, former DEA agent Carl Force was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for extortion, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. Former Secret Service...
Nah, that's some cringe shit. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't give no fuck. When you are a police officer or somebody of respect, quote unquote, in the government and you work for them, you should get absolutely clapped on because you know better. You know better, and your job is to know better,
agree with that.
to enforce better, right?
It's kind of a
You should be
decent take
one.
by X, low-key.
You're always gonna above it, and to do the same or worse, you should get snapped on. That's how it is. That's how it is. Because you're in a position of power and privilege over everybody else, right? And you're using that to do the same thing or worse than the people who are in a position of power that they do. That's just fucked. That's just fucked, dude.
Agent Sean
That's
Bridges
odd.
was
Fuck 'em.
sentenced to nearly 6 years in
Fuck
prison
'em.
on charges of money laundering and obstruction of justice. He was later sentenced to an additional 2 years for another theft of Bitcoin from the U.S. government.
So got 8 years.
Thanks for
6
watching.
years.
For Newsthink, I'm Cindy Palm.
Jesus,
That is odd.
that was wild.
That is.
Not just odd, that was absolutely fucking wild, man. That judge fucking went in on him, man. I wonder how long it took. I wonder if she was just like rap god spitting off the top of her dome for that final paragraph, or like if she like rehearsed it. You know what I mean? That was fucking wild. Yo, hey, make sure to go subscribe to XQC and what is this? Newsthink. These guys. So yeah, I gotta subscribe to them too, because I didn't watch their video. Go subscribe to Newsthink too, yeah? Alright, what's next, chat?